final speaker is Larry Galehouse. Larry Galehouse is a champion of pavement preservation, having founded the National Center for Pavement Preservation in 2003 and serving as its director until his retirement.
Well, good to be with everyone today. And many of you have heard there is a group of experts working under the TSP2 umbrella called the Emulsion Task Force. And my report will update you on the activities and deliverables of the Emulsion Task Force. And I think many of you realize that up until a few years ago, there were no national standards for any emulsified asphalt pavement preservation treatment. So one of the goals of the task force was to really do that. And to get a treatment, it's a big deal because this is how the approval process for AASHTO works. And I developed this flow chart, and you can see it's pretty involved. The ETF, or the Emulsion Task Force, developed a specification. Let's just say one specification. Development time, depending on a specification, sometimes can take up to 2 years, but generally it's somewhere between 1 and 2 years. And once we feel the specification is complete, then we'll send it to the AASHTO program manager for engineering, in this case, Casey Sonera. And Casey then will take that specification, she'll distribute it to the technical subcommittee chairs, and these are people that are under the Committee for Materials and Pavements. Our group generally focuses on 3 areas, so it could either be technical subcommittee 2A for emulsified asphalts, it could be technical subcommittee 5B for bridge and pavement preservation, or it could be technical subcommittee 5C, quality assurance and environmental. So once it's distributed to the correct chair, then they send it down to the committee. And then we go to the next step. The committee takes a very close review of the specification. And obviously there's going to be questions and comments about those specification or the specification. And at that time, those questions and comments are sent back to the originator, which in our case is the Emulsion Task Force. Every comment, every question has to be addressed in writing. Changes may be made to the specification to take into account some of the issues that were pointed out. And once that is done, then we move to the technical subcommittee's ballot. And the approval process requires approval of 50% plus 1 of the technical subcommittee. If it doesn't pass, it goes back. More tweaking is done. It may go back up to the ETF for more tweaking, and then it comes down again. Then it's voted on, and if it's approved, we go to step A. Then it goes to the full membership of COMP, and that's all 52 voting entities representing the states and so on, Puerto Rico and DC. It's reviewed by them, and then it's put out for ballot, and it needs 2/3 approval to pass. There may be some nuances, some other issues to address, but if it passes, it goes back to the technical subcommittee and the ETF, and together we address the ballot issues. Once that is done, then it's adopted as a provisional standard. So you can see this whole process takes some time, and just the approval process alone takes 1 to 2 years. And so it's a big deal getting a spec through the AASHTO process. The Emulsion Task Force then has a pretty good record because there have been a number of different emulsion treatments that have passed. You can see that these are provisionals. We have them for the materials, design, and we're working on the construction guidance documents right now. But you can see chip seal, micro, fog, scrub, the Nova chip, because that's a emulsified asphalt bond, sand seal slurry, tack coat, CIR, and foamed asphalt stabilization. So a lot of work has been done. Also, there's been work on the emulsified binder standards, and these are for the M140 emulsified asphalt, 208 cationic, and 316 polymer modified cationic emulsions. Let me tell you a little bit about some studies. Currently, the ETF wrote a proposal that was accepted by NCHRP, and there's a study now to develop emulsion surface performance grades. Similar to what binders have, we believe it's important that emulsions have the same thing based on temperature. And currently this study is underway. It was, the PI is Mike Anderson out of the Asphalt Institute, and they're doing a heck of a job coming up with standards that were developed. Now, we have a lot of provisionals. So when does a provisional become a standard? There's a little bit to that as well. The process for a provisional standard to become a full standard, once it's approved by the comp, then it initially is approved for 2 years by vote of the comp. At the end of the 2 years, and again at the 4-year mark, the technical subcommittee, whatever one it is, 2A, 5B, or 5C, they can extend it for another 2 years by a voice vote or a ballot vote. So then it goes up to 6 years. And at the end of 6 years and 7 years, the technical subcommittee can extend its life 1 more year on the ballot. If at any point it fails to get a vote, it's discontinued if it fails to pass. However, at any time during the 8-year period, the technical subcommittee can ballot to convert the provisional standard to a full standard. Now, what's the key here? These provisional standards need to be used by the states. And so that's very important. Now, when I say used, does the whole standard have to be used? No, it can be referred to in parts. And for example, if you're doing a chip seal or a micro, you may have a special provision and you can refer to these in your special provision with exceptions. So it's important to understand the importance of using AASHTO specs because they are a national standard. So let's move on. One of the things I want to tell you about is that there is a program NCHRP has is 20-44, and this is an implementation program. It's not really a research program, and I think most of us would realize research really doesn't do too much for us unless we can implement it. And this whole program is designed to implement 1437, which was a project for chip seals and micro surfacing and fog seals. And the goal of this through NCHRP 44 is really to have state agencies like all of you to adopt these construction specs for chip seals, micro surfacing, and fog seals. That's our goal. It's a lofty goal, but we think it's important that people take a good look at these specifications and consider how we can improve them. It doesn't mean you have to adopt it 100%. Parts of these specs should be considered for adoption. So there's a number of different tasks in NCHRP 20-44, and our particular project is 26. We have a task for messaging and implementation. We also have a task for outreach, and many of you may hear about this program coming into your department because outreach is going to take it to the leadership of the different departments and explain the importance of it. But now we get into the nuts and bolts of it that will affect each of you, and there'll be some training involved. And some of this training may be face-to-face if we can get out of this virus situation, but some of it may be web-based. But these training courses are going to be prepared for engineers, and another one may be set up for technicians, inspectors, and so forth for these emulsion and emulsified asphalt treatments. Another thing that's going to happen through this project is they're going to prepare, and we will prepare, because the project is based out of NCPP, and I happen to be the PI on this, but we're working very closely with the ETF steering committee, so it's all going to work in sync. Is we're preparing appropriate training materials. Some of this media may be PowerPoints, training manuals, workbooks, or brochures, but nonetheless, we're going to give you something that you can hang on to. The last portion of this is really demonstrations, because we want to conduct a demonstration in each one of the 4 AASHTO regions using the construction guide specs and the provisional material and design specs to showcase the new concepts to the owner agencies. We think it's very important that people can see exactly how these treatments work if we follow the new specifications and the new AASHTO standards. How this is going to work is the projects are going to be selected in coordination with the state DOTs that would have these projects regularly programmed. So if your department has a chip seal or a micro or a fog seal that you would like to utilize the standards in, those would become a demo project. So the goal is that we would like to do 1 chip seal project, 1 micro project, and 1 fog seal project in each one of the 4 partnership regions. Now you're going to wonder, well, what do these specs look like? You can see the specifications on the ETF webpage. These are draft specifications. They're very close to the finals, but because of the copyright that AASHTO has, we cannot just hand out the approved specifications. So we're going to show you drafts that are very, very close. Copy down this website, because you can get in and look at what is on the ETF web pages. Specifications, there's a lot of information out there. So I just wanted to run through that very quickly, but I need each of you, and this is your homework assignment, I need each of you to find a demo project, something that you're going to do anyway, but you're going to adopt either all or a portion of the new AASHTO spec. With that, we'll entertain burning questions a little later. Phil, I'll turn it back over to you.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.